Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Kaysen.
Today we will be covering our first episode of Mass Effect 1. Some people have been asking, you're doing the whole trilogy? No, just the first game.
Yes.
We'll do the second game at some point in the future.
Eventually we will do the whole trilogy.
We're not doing another 20 episodes on one game or one series thing again.
Never again.
This will maybe be 8 episodes total at the high end. Anyways, yeah. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm massively, massively excited to cover this game. This is one of my absolute favorite games of all time. And whenever I'm busting up props and things like that, it means I'm pretty stoked. Chrissy, this jacket that I'm wearing was not what I was originally planning on wearing. I have like an N7 jacket that's going to be coming in that Chrissy got me for Christmas, and she got this for Christmas. And then I got a couple banners, the Paragon and Renegade banners, right?
Dude, just like that, you're a collector again.
I'm a collector. I'm a collector, which is a Mass Effect term, which will come up in Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm very, very excited to cover this game. This jacket was actually for a short film that we were going to make. Well, we actually filmed it.
We filmed it, but we never finished
it. We never finished it because I was not happy with my performance as the main character in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was for a science fiction story.
It's like a 20-minute script.
Yeah, and I've been expanding on that since. I'll probably turn it into a novel someday.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But anyways, this channel has mostly been us, kind of talking about JRPGs.
Yes.
And so I'm very excited to step away from that a little bit and cover a game that, for me, this is probably going to surprise a lot of people, because I have a ton of passion for Final Fantasy, obviously.
Of course, yes.
I love the series. I would not have done all the work on Final Fantasy videos I've done over the years had that not been the case. I like Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2 better than pretty much every Final Fantasy game I've ever played, outside of maybe Final Fantasy 7 or Tactics. But the rest of them, I like this series better than those. So
fascinating.
I'm stoked. I'm like really, really stoked to talk about it. So we're going to talk about mostly today a little bit of the history of BioWare, but mostly we're going to focus on Mass Effect's development history. And then we played up through the Prologue, which is just the first sort of like tutorial mission to Eden Prime.
Yeah, and kind of play through that whole mission.
Yeah, just through that whole mission. And next time we're going to be covering the Citadel all the way through the Novaria mission, I believe. If I'm wrong about that being the first one, because I think you can go to a couple different places you can choose, but I think we're going to do Novaria first. If I'm wrong about that, I'll put a correction in post when editing this later. Okay. So that's where we're playing up to today. So, what is your experience with Mass Effect?
Yeah, so this is the kind of game that I have started playing, I think, 3 separate times. I have played the beginning of Mass Effect many times. I've never beaten the game, and I've never even come that close. I've gotten a few hours in. It's always so wondrous, so cool. I freaking love it. And then I don't know exactly what happens, but I stopped playing the game. And
would you say that that's common for you because you don't like finishing games, or is this different?
This is different because I don't even get more than 15% into this game, into this particular game. Oh, so and I've always wanted to. Yeah. It was first introduced to me by Dan.
Dan Conde, right?
Yeah, 14 years ago, or maybe not 14. What was it? Like a year or so after it came out.
Yeah.
And it's super sweet. It was super cool, But I never really. But the thing is that I do know about this game. It's not like Xenogears where I knew very little going into it. With this game, I have heard things and I know pretty well what's going on here. So it's not going to be like a totally blind.
Well, it's definitely not as insanely complex a story.
So for multiple reasons, yes, exactly. But at the same time, I've never actually really experienced the whole story before. And I've heard it's phenomenal, and it is. I don't know why I never finished the game.
I freaking love it. I freaking love it. I mean, I know Landon played the first game multiple times. He and I would chat about it. I don't think he ended up finishing Mass Effect 2, though, or going much further than that. And so
I know he was upset because his save data didn't carry over.
Yeah,
because he played the first one on a separate console, right?
Yeah.
Or he played it on the Xbox, but then we had it on the PS3.
or PC
something like
version
that.
or something like that.
Or maybe it was Steam, yeah,
because
something like that.
eventually they released it on PS3, I think, the trilogy, but it was like way late in its life cycle. It was mostly an Xbox and PC exclusive for a really long time. But in any case, it was one of the first games I played after coming back from Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
So like I was gone for 2 years. I didn't really play video games, obviously, while I was gone. I think the last game that was like brand new that I had played before I left was like Shadow of the Colossus or something like that.
Oh, sure.
It's like a PS2 era game. And I left right as the new consoles were coming out. So I came in a little bit late, and my brother,
I remember that. Yeah.
my brother bought Mass Effect and Fable 2, and those were like the kind of the 2 games I was playing around that time.
Oh, Fable 2, man. I did beat that one.
Fable 2 is great. I love it.
Oh, it's great.
It's like not a super great RPG, but it's just like one of those games that are, its charm makes up for everything.
It's just very charming.
All the weaknesses, as stupid, easy, and dumb as the game is, the charm.
And there are many.
Anyways.
But what's funny, since you bring up Fable, I feel like the first Fable, kind of possibly influenced a lot of Mass Effect and what they were trying to do with the general idea of Mass Effect. Because they were coming up with the idea for Mass Effect around the time that Fable came out.
Yeah.
And it was like,
because they had done
you can do really
Knights
cool
of
stuff
the Old
here.
Republic.
Yes, yeah.
Before that. And
before that.
Those were kind of contemporary games, right?
Yeah.
RPGs at the time. Anyways, so I played Mass Effect at that point, and dude, I was just blown away. For a number of reasons.
It is a mind-blowing game, especially in its time.
Like, I think what really there were 2 things in particular that really captured me about it. One was, I had never played anything that felt as cinematic as Mass Effect.
At the time, for sure.
Like, Shadows of the Colossus is very cinematic in a lot of ways. But this felt like you are in a movie.
Yeah, but the lighting was just... So Shadow of Colossus with the PS2, they just couldn't do as much with the lighting.
Yeah.
With especially the...
Like real-time lighting, rim
the
lighting.
backlighting, rim lighting, the really cool like hair lights and stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that they could do better, because this game, Mass Effect, was made with Unreal Engine 3, which was a significant upgrade.
Right.
And basically every game started using Unreal Engine 3.
And like the way they were doing facial animation at this point was super advanced for the time. There's so many things.
It felt like a movie. And they got some pretty good voice actors too.
Oh, the voice talent's fantastic. Yeah. Like, and we're going to go all over that because I have a lot of notes on that too.
Good.
But they even have like a film grain effect that you can turn on and off.
It's optional, but I remember I would always play with that stuff on.
Yeah, because it felt like you were in a movie.
Yes.
And that, to me, at the time, was like a mind-blowing thing.
Right.
So like that was a big hook for me. But then also, it's the moment where you first access the galaxy map.
That's the thing, yes. And that's usually when I stop playing. Maybe there is something to the overwhelming feeling, because I look at that and I'm just like, this is so freaking cool. I can do anything. But have you ever been to a restaurant where the menu's there's like 50
too many choices?
Yeah. And it's like you've got the little mini things, or you can go with the story, but I always want to do all the mini things before I continue the story, right?
Yeah.
And anyways, I'm just looking at this, and that's around the time that I kind of am like
overwhelmed.
It's not that I want to stop playing. It's just that it's harder for me to choose what to do, and I already feel like I've missed. So one of the things, I have big FOMO in general, fear of missing out.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And when you're playing a game like Mass Effect, it's like you've got to pick what you do, but that means you can't do the other thing, and you will never do the other thing because that moment is past.
It's gone.
And I hate, because I always want to be OP in every game. I always want to be just super high level, just super good. It makes the game easier. It's just more fun for me to kind of exploit all the weaknesses of the game and just become as powerful as possible.
Yeah,
right?
I like doing that.
But
too.
you can't do it the way that I want to with a game like this. You have to forego some things in order to get other things.
Oh, because you make choices.
That is very difficult for me to do. Yeah, very difficult.
I see.
But for me, I have to continue playing the game knowing that I made this wrong decision before, and it just throws the whole game off. I'm too much of a perfectionist. That's probably the better word.
Yeah.
I want to do everything that a game has to offer, and when I can't do it, and I'm just confronted with an ever increasing amount of things to do, and a large number of things that I could have or should have done in the past.
Yeah.
Some people may love that.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it conceptually, but practically, I have a very hard time with it.
Yeah, hard time.
It's very difficult for me.
Okay. Well, when I first accessed that galaxy map and it pulled it up, and there's some music that plays there.
Oh yeah.
So Jack Wall, who's the composer on this game, he really went with kind of that Blade Runner synth vibe.
Yes, I got
to
an
it.
80s feel to it.
Yeah,
and
and
you
it
get that
just-
with the intro song too.
Oh, I love that tone. That
It was an
feel.
interesting choice, but I like it too. I like it a lot too.
It creates this like feeling of just like wonder and like mystery and just like a vastness to space that like immediately transported me back in time to when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
It was on, I think, like a July 4th evening or whatever, or night, where my dad was doing some fireworks out in the street.
Yeah.
And when we were done, he was sitting with me on the lawn in Houston, Texas at the time, and he was pointing out all of the star constellations and showing me how they connect. And so he said, this is how you know this is the Big Dipper, and this is how you know this is the Little Dipper, and this is Orion over here, and this is how you can connect it. He was teaching me how to do that. And that ignited this just passion and love for astronomy that I had all the way through like elementary school, basically.
Yeah.
I could not get enough. They have, in Houston, they have really cool space camps in the summertime you can go to for kids.
NASA's
'cause
headquarters there. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so like
That's
I
sweet.
loved going to those, and just I couldn't get enough. I had this little headset that would have these little cartridges you could plug into it. They're like lessons, and they came with booklets
Okay, yeah.
and like a little like mouthpiece, and you could
sick,
speak
dude.
the answer, so it would
That's
quiz
cool.
you as you, and it was a little sci-fi kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and you'd go through the book, and it would ask you questions about the solar system or about astronomy and stuff like that, and you could kind of learn about it. And I would just do those lessons over and over again. And so that feeling that I had, kind of lost a little bit as I moved into middle school and high school and got focused on other things, I was like transported back in time into this moment. And it just,
The wonder of the vastness.
yes,
Yeah.
it just like, and I cannot even like really articulate what an amazing moment that was, nostalgic moment that was for me.
Yeah.
That Mass Effect, obviously, the creators didn't set out to do, but it was just an emergent sort of thing for me. And so those two things combined just absolutely hooked me into Mass Effect. And then the very competent storytelling and writing, and character writing in particular, just carried me all the way through that series. And so it's one of my absolute favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm super pumped to get researching into the developers who made it, because I know so much about like Final Fantasy's development history, but I haven't really looked into until now the guys who made BioWare so special during its like first 15, 20 years. It was founded, I think, in 1994 or 95.
Oh, wow.
And then
dang.
all the way up through basically 2010, 2011, in that range, they just like, they never missed. Everything they made was so amazing. And so I want to jump into that a little bit now, moving into some of the key developers. So the guys who founded it, there were 3 of them actually, and they were actually doctors. They had like PhDs, and they were practicing medicine at the time that they decided
Sick.
they wanted to get into making
That's
video
cool.
games instead.
Yeah, yeah.
So there were 3 of them, but the 2 that stuck around were Ray Muzica, who's the CEO and executive producer on Mass Effect,
Okay.
and then Greg Zeschuk, who is the president, or was the president of BioWare and executive producer on this game as well. All of
Where are
these
these
guys
guys
are
from?
from Canada.
Canada. So those are Montreal, kind of Quebec.
Yeah, I think
French names.
Alberta is
Alberta.
is where BioWare's headquarters is at.
Sweet.
So anyways, they were basically putting all their own money into it and making no profit for the first several years. And so some of their wives were putting pressure on them. They said, you got to choose here whether you're, because they were practicing medicine at the same time that they were running this game development company making video games. And they're putting, over $100,000 between them into like making this company that's making no money. So anyways, they basically got ultimatums from their wives, like choose to practice medicine or choose to make video games, like make one or the other here. Augustine Yip was the third.
Okay.
And so he ended up going back to practice medicine, and then Ray Muzica and Greg Zeschuk, they decided to keep going with making video games. So their first game was Shattered Steel, and it was like kind of an action shooter kind of a thing, right? But Baldur's Gate was their second project after that, and that's what really kicked off BioWare as a company. It sold really, really well. So they started, that's kind of how they started finding their success at BioWare, was they were licensing from other popular properties.
Yeah, that
Baldur's
makes
Gate
sense.
is a D&D, Dungeons and Dragons property, right? Or the world that they're using, the lore, the characters, the lands that are from D&D. And then their next major hit was Knights of the Old Republic, which
Star Wars.
Lucasfilm approached them after Baldur's Gate and
sick. I
said,
didn't know
"Can you
that.
make a Baldur's Gate in our Star Wars
for
universe
Star Wars.
with Jedi and Sith?"
Sick.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do
Yes.
that."
We'll do that one.
So that's kind of how Knights of the Old Republic came around. But at that point, or after that point, I should say, they kind of came to a place where it's like they didn't want to continue just creating licensed properties like that. They wanted to create an original IP.
Yeah.
And something that would be, kind of like their own version of Star Wars, right? And that's where Mass Effect kind of, where they started, pre-production or planning on Mass Effect. And there's a lot that goes into that, but they also had Jade Empire before that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which was sort of like a Chinese martial arts influenced sort of RPG. But it's in the same vein as something like Knights of the Old Republic or Mass Effect, but just in that sort
RPG
of
style.
setting, right?
Yeah.
But there's some things that kind of carry over between all three of them, right? Like they always have in Mass Effect, it's the Renegade and Paragon choices, the morality sort of path, right, that your character can choose. I think in Jade Empire, it's like the open palm or the closed fist or something like that. And then of course it's light side, dark side
In
Knights
Star
of
Wars,
the Old Republic. So they all kind of have a similar like DNA to them in that sense. That's like a very BioWare thing, right? But then you have really key players for Mass Effect in particular. Casey Hudson, who was the director. He has a really fascinating story behind how he kind of came in and got involved in Mass Effect. He was very inexperienced at the time because he ended up being the director of Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes.
And he was hoping to just be like an art director or something. He's like, I wish I had more experience because I would love to be an art director on that game. Like there's no way they'll pick me though because I'm just brand new to this game development thing, right? And then they call him in and they're like, we're going to make you the project director on Knights of the Old Republic. He's like, what? But he was very much the visionary from like Knights of the Old Republic through Mass Effect 3, who really just like took BioWare into the stratosphere as a developer, right? He's a really, really amazing guy, and there's a lot of stuff we'll get into about his history. Cool. But also, so he was the director. Then you had Drew Karpyshyn, who was the lead writer. And this dude...
He wrote for the Knights of the Old Republic stuff as well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That was his first game as lead writer as well, was Knights of the Old Republic. There's always like one developer I find on these series as I'm sort of like researching on them, whether it's Xenogears or Final Fantasy games or whatever we've covered in here, where there's like one guy I kind of get like drawn to, and it's like that guy I feel like I connect with that guy.
Sure.
On like Chrono Trigger, it's Yasunori Mitsuda.
Of course.
So there's like one person, and for whatever reason on Mass Effect it's Drew Karpyshyn. I just feel like he really like, I mean, obviously video games are it's a collaborative effort.
Right.
So everybody's contributing a lot of, and you can't just pick out one guy, like they're the ones who made it work. But Drew Karpyshyn's writing in particular, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah.
And particularly, he's great with characters, and that's what Mass Effect does the best, is the way that the characters interact, the way that they work together is just, it makes it really special. And so,
well, it makes sense that a writer would
Yeah.
occupy that spot in this game because of how much like writing there is in
It's
this
a
game.
ton.
I was looking it up. It's like 400,000 words,
yeah,
and that's
it's
like
several novels.
that's a
worth.
lot. That's
Yeah.
more than like the whole Lord of the Rings, all 3 books basically. It's like it's like the first 5 Harry Potter books or something like that. Like it's a ton. It's a ton.
Absolute ton. Other important developers on this, Preston Watamaniuk, I think I'm saying that right. Watamaniuk. These Canadian names are hard for me, but he was a lead designer, so like kind of a level designer. You have David Faulkner as the lead programmer, Derek Watts as the art director, and Jack Wall as the composer. So together, they sort of developed what ended up being called the 4 pillars of BioWare. So these were like the 4 like foundational principles upon which they built their games. And it's interesting to me that they do it in the order that they do it. They list it in this order. Story, progression, exploration, and gameplay. And to me, that kind of was what made BioWare special, was the way that their story, their character progression, and exploration sort of got you lost in these worlds that they would create. And it's like the gameplay is like not necessarily the most engaging ever
not.
in RPGs, at the time. But
I also played. I played Mass Effect before I played Call of Duty or any of those.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It was actually really difficult for me to use the
Oh,
sticks
the twin sticks,
and the hiding behind stuff and looking around, and it's more intuitive for me now. But at the time, that was very difficult. Like, combat was really, really hard for me, and I was not yet coordinated enough with this new generation of consoles from the Xbox 360 on at the beginning. It was Call of Duty that got me to that point where I could do that. But yeah, the gameplay was quite difficult in this game for a lot of reasons.
And there's also just the fact that it's not, like, there's a couple of things that they've fixed, say in like the Legend, or I won't say fixed, I'll call it altered, for the Legendary remaster they just put out this year.
Oh, yeah.
Where like it feels more like a modern shooter in terms of its mechanics and its feel, right? But like the idea that they had at the time, like a lot of the guns, especially early on, they had this drift to them.
Yes,
right?
I noticed.
And the idea was that
because it had a lock-on feature, right? So you could kind of lock on something, like not immediately, but the camera would like on.
I think,
but there was like some drift, so that it wasn't like too easy,
so you would aim down the sights.
It made it feel a little more.
Particularly on like the sniper rifle, you'd aim down the sights, and there'd just be this insane drift to it.
Okay, on the sniper,
and you would time it so. Boom! As soon as you get crossed into the hair.
I hate that. But a
lot of people did.
Something reminds me of Halo with that, though. That Halo did something similar. There's a little bit of like, drift.
And you have to like hold your breath to like steady and then fire or whatever.
And I was never very good at Halo.
So I get why people hate it, because it is annoying. But that's out of the new version. But if they
didn't have it, and it's just there.
Well, because it's an RPG,
too, right?
You improve your skills in the guns, and the drift decreases
slowly decreases
over the course of the game.
That makes
so the idea is it's an RPG mechanic, and I liked it for that reason.
Interesting.
It was like, I'm going to choose to be better at sniper rifles, and I won't have the points to put into, say, shotguns or pistols, but I'm going to like specialize in that weapon, right? And so to me, that made it interesting as an RPG mechanic. But now it's like, and for some of the classes, you couldn't even use some of the weapons.
Yes,
so it's like this class like disavows you. You're not allowed to use snipers in this class.
Right.
That's not the case anymore. You can use any of the guns in the new version.
Interesting.
And so it kind of takes away a little bit of that RPG aspect and makes it more of an action shooter aspect. But anyways, I really liked that about the original game, even though it's something that annoyed a lot of other people. But it was, for me, it's going back to those 4 pillars, right? Like, that's kind of the reason why I'm attracted to video games to begin with. Like, I think what I really look for is the opportunity to be lost in another world and just like really immersed in with characters in a world that I can feel like I can go explore and learn about. And Mass Effect is like almost a pinnacle of that for me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much lore. Like, it's like Legend of Zelda was maybe my first introduction to that feeling.
Yeah.
But there's not as much of the lore to uncover to really fill out that world, or really dynamic characters that you can come to like really love, or
like recurring, who are kind of always
and so like Mass Effect to me like took that to another level, that feeling. And so even though gameplay might not be the greatest, like that's not really the reason why I'm playing video games. And that might sound strange to some people. It's like gameplay should always be the first most important
go watch a movie.
Part. But to me it's like if mechanics are going to be the thing I do, it's like, why wouldn't I just play chess or go play basketball, go join a city league and enjoy the game of it, right? I would probably rather do those things if I'm only going to focus on a game's mechanics.
Yeah.
But for me, like, video games are all about getting lost in the world, and that's what Mass Effect did majorly for me.
Yeah.
So early on, BioWare, they wanted to make role-playing games their specialty, right? The success of Baldur's Gate led to an offer from LucasArts to do Baldur's Gate in a Star Wars universe. And I kind of talked about this already, but Casey Hudson, he was just a technical artist at the time. He was kind of low on the totem pole, and they made him the project director. And that game, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, was the first time that Hudson, Karpyshyn, Watamaniak, Faulkner, and Watts all got to work together as a team. So that's like where this particular team that would go on to make Mass Effect, they came together on Knights of the Old Republic for the first time. And so they became like the real core, like I was saying earlier, of the BioWare team through the 2000s, I guess, up through 2010, right? So there's a couple of interesting quotes here from Casey Hudson talking about like how he came up with Mass Effect. So they essentially decided at the top end, they were like, we want to do our own Star Wars. We want to create our own intellectual property, our own version of that, right? We don't want to keep licensing. And so Casey Hudson basically came up with this insanely ambitious pitch.
Of course.
It was just called codename SFX at the time. Like there was going to be this online element and all of these things that ended up getting dropped, and they eventually sort of re-implemented in like Mass Effect 3. There's a whole online side to the game. But it was so ambitious, it was so huge that like the guys at the top, Zestchuk and Muzika, were kind of just like, whoa, like...
Their jobs became to talk him out of it.
Well, they were so impressed with the passion that he was bringing to it that they were like, okay, let's just like shoot for the moon and go for it. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And you know, some things had to get cut along the way, but so there's two resources, one in particular that I want to point people to who want to learn about the history of Mass Effect. There is, it's, I don't know if you'd call it a book. It's like a 15,000 word, like really long article or essay, but you can get it on like Kindle. And it's actually got some, not the Kindle version, but you can download a version like on your PC that has some interactive elements and things like that. But it was written by Jeff Keighley, so he was a reporter at the time. And it is called Mass Effect, oh shoot, it just went away. The Final Hours of Mass Effect is what it's called. I would definitely look into this because it's really, really fascinating to kind of see like how this all came together. It's really well written, and there's just like so much packed in here that like we're not going to have the time to like go over everything on the podcast. But there's a few things from this in particular I'm just going to be like straight up reading and quoting. But so here we go. SFX, right? Hudson had great ambitions as outlined in a one-page document he presented to the doctors. The first line said it all. With online capabilities and gameplay features that will redefine the genre, SFX will become a mainstream phenomenon and a must-have game for the Xbox 2. So they didn't even know what the Xbox 360 was going to be. Hudson's vision was to create a game somewhere between the turn-based role-playing of Knights of the Old Republic and the fast-paced action of the sci-fi shooter Halo. So Halo was Halo was huge at the time.
Oh yeah.
Halo was like the freaking top dog at that time, right? He imagined a rich story with memorable characters, exploration in a spaceship like his favorite game, Starflight, and a robust online feature in which fans could trade and share the spoils of war over Xbox Live. So that was kind of the start, right, of what Mass Effect was going to be, the original ambition there. And of course, like, you actually get down to the brass tacks of the everyday development side of things, and it's like, okay, we're going to have to let go of that idea maybe and save that for a sequel or something like that. But for a lot of stuff that they outline, or that he outlines that he wanted here, there's actually quite a bit of it that they were able to get in from the initial idea. But I've got a couple of quotes here from Xbox Gazette. It's an article that did an interview with Hudson, talking about some of the things that it was leading up to the release of Mass Effect. He was kind of talking about some of the things that made Mass Effect special. And I felt that this really put together in a good way, like the elements of Mass Effect that for me, like the draw to what makes it like a special series, why is a great game.
Yeah.
So they ask him, concerning the dialogues in the morality system, will they be comparable to Knights of the Old Republic and Jade Empire? With each of our games, the moral system, this is Casey Hudson talking, the moral system is designed to support the core experience of the game. As Knights of the Old Republic was a Star Wars game, we established the light and dark paths for them to choose between to capture that aspect of dealing with the Force. In Jade Empire, players were able to follow the way of the open palm or closed fist, supporting the martial arts setting and providing options that weren't necessarily just good or evil. In Mass Effect, you're the only person that's able to stop the gravest threat to the galaxy, one that could destroy all known civilization. That means that you're justified in smashing through anything that stands in your way, completing your mission at any cost. In other words, you'll be able to do bad things for good reasons. As you make important decisions throughout the game to be compassionate, selfish, or brutal, the entire galaxy is watching you, learning about what the upstart human race is like through your actions. As the game develops, you're actually determining humanity's ultimate role on the galactic stage. So that is the promise, I think, that Mass Effect sets out. It's going to allow you to make choices as a James Bond-like agent who's kind of can act outside of the law, right? That's what Spectres are.
Yeah.
It's like they basically only answer to the Citadel Council, but they're given freedom to basically do whatever they want to get the job done. And you can choose to be, a paragon of this compassionate, unselfish like side of humanity, or to be ruthless and cold and efficient and get the job done. And like whichever path you choose will sort of like show the rest of the galactic civilizations what the potential of humanity is.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where its morality system was going. I think it has varying levels of success, particularly on the Renegade route, which I want to talk about a little bit when we get into the actual prologue that we played. But that's one of the biggest draws, I feel, to Mass Effect, is the fact that you can choose in this morality system, this dialogue wheel that they have in how you talk with people.
I like that innovation, by the way.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
The dialogue wheel itself, the fact that it's on a wheel and you spin it around and talk to people.
So it gives you more options, because you could have gone the N64 route and included a ton of C buttons, or just had tons of buttons, or you can just use the stick, and it's like you can do whatever you want to,
And
just with the stick.
the way that they set it up is the answers on the top side of the wheel
Are the Paragon.
Answers, right? And the ones on the bottom side of the wheel are the Renegade, cold, ruthless options.
Now,
and then in the center are like the neutral
which is the
which doesn't
useless options.
Count for anything.
The
and that's
best
unfortunate.
options, but the ones that aren't useful. So I didn't know that when I first played the game.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm going to pick whatever I want to do, right?
Right.
And I was actually upset that he didn't actually say the thing that I told him to say. Now, playing the game now, it's a whole different experience, because it's like I know what's happening. It's like Paragon, and then you can pick the thing, like, hey, let's talk about this thing. And it's like, I get it now, having already been exposed to it before. But when I first played the game, that was something I really didn't like. I was like, no, I wanted you to say this, and you said that. But I actually really like how they did it. They give you the gist, a very simplified, like a few words of what he's going to say. But then the dialogue actually kind of flows from there, with them saying other things than what you selected necessarily. I like it now. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah. Very confusing initially. Very, very confusing.
For sure. But, to whatever degree of success they had, or whatever, failures that you might encounter, or ways in which it's not as deep as it maybe promises or purports to be, it is one of the bigger, I feel, draws. And it is one element that really makes you feel like you're role-playing, right?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of RPGs today, you're not really role-playing, you're just kind of like following an established character.
Yes.
That's not really
That's mostly the Japanese RPG.
Yeah, the Japanese RPG influence.
Yes.
And that's fine. I mean, I love that style of game as well. Yeah. But I think that feeling that I really look for like I was talking about earlier, playing video games, I tend to prefer this style of RPG that lets you make decisions, that lets you kind of stand in the shoes of that character and become that character. I think that I prefer that a little bit. Now, in Japanese RPGs, a lot of times, in order to do that, they'll make it a silent character, and a lot of JRPG fans, they don't love silent characters. We've had our discussions about that on the podcast in the past.
Of course.
But here it's not. Here it's a character with, spoken lines and things like that, and so you kind of get the best of both.
I think you do. Because you still get a say in what he says, but it's still very cinematic and it's not awkward.
Yeah.
As to because even when you're playing like Legend of Zelda and you push a button, in your mind it's like, what did Link actually say?
Yeah.
Did he say anything? Or what is this? And
Yeah.
sometimes people are telling you stories and stuff, and there's always the question. Now, of course, I don't mind that at all too much, but in a game like this, you can't have that.
Yeah.
In a cinematic, this is a movie, here you are this person, and you can't just have those simple, like yes or no, shake your head, nod your head to everything.
And to me, this was the first time I really played something like this. Like, I hadn't played Knights of the Old Republic or Jade Empire or Baldur's Gate before this. My experience with RPGs was mostly with Japanese role-playing games
RPGs,
as a kid growing up. And so this was just like, wow, it felt so expansive in a way I had not personally experienced before. And so to me, it really works, despite, the hiccups or the parts that they maybe could have done better or whatever. Anyways, there's a whole problem that comes up with all the permutations, and that's something that they write about here too. Just the overwhelming number of choices and how many paths that can create, and how do you limit that so that it doesn't get out of control, right?
But limit it without the players feeling like they're being limited.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
Another interesting thing that I found in sort of researching on this is just like the sort of like the humble roots. This is something I always like to learn about, like the humble beginnings, the humble roots of like how something like whether it's Final Fantasy, sort of like coming to this place where it's just like, it was this massive success that just came from these like humble beginnings or whatever. I like reading about that.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, especially in the 80s when game development was like a brand new thing, it's like they were all dropout college students.
Yes, in a garage
just like,
somewhere,
By this time, it's like games are becoming like a worldwide phenomenon, but most of these guys, they didn't like go to school for game development necessarily, right? Like they just sort of like opportunities sort of just opened up and they sort of fell into it. And it was a startup company, and I really like reading about stories like that because it's just kind of cool to see people who were at maybe like at a point in their lives where they really weren't happy. They're feeling like, I don't know where my life is going, and then all of a sudden they just kind of stumble into this thing, and they become these amazing creators, right?
They find their niche, I guess. They find the thing that they really can do well.
So like Casey Hudson, for instance, right? Like he was trying to be a fighter pilot his whole life. That's like what he wanted to do. And he was failing through college because he wasn't like taking it seriously enough.
Yeah.
And it's like the Air Force, I guess the way it was written here is that they weren't in the habit of accepting, people who didn't have, or people who didn't do very well in school. Who were like dropouts or who didn't have like a degree or whatever.
I was going to say, but they do want, you got to be pretty competent if you want to be a fighter pilot.
Right,
they
exactly.
The high IQ,
in the Air Force, it's like, if you join the Army or something, it's very different than the Air Force.
They can find jobs.
They're very particular about Air Force.
For the pilots, specifically for the pilots, yes.
So they want people who are very competent. Anyways, he grew up watching Top Gun, so he wanted to be a fighter pilot, right? Another really interesting anecdote, I just love this, is for his like elementary school like science fair, where everyone else is making the volcanoes and the typical thing you see.
Or the baking soda.
He actually, and this would have been in the 80s, so this is like really early on with computers. Not a lot of people understood computers at the time. He wrote a little program that he would type the word run, and it would do this little bird animation, right? So like he did that by himself as like an 8-year-old or something like that, right?
Sweet.
And the science fair judges were like, Casey, like, tell us the truth. Did your dad help you with this? And he was so pissed that he deleted his program And he rewrote the whole thing right there with them watching to
really?
prove that he did it himself.
That's
and
funny.
he walked away with like the first prize or whatever, right? So that's the kind of guy he was. He's very ambitious. He's very like driven. But for whatever reason, he wasn't taking school that seriously. So he came to this place where he wasn't sure what he wanted to do with his life. Yeah, I got a quote from him here. He says, "There's a false confidence that you have when you think you can't lose. You don't realize what you have and what you're playing for." So he started taking jobs, convenience stores, and programming software for like an irrigation company, and all these little things he was doing. But he was encouraged to go back to school by his parents and his girlfriend. He ended up finishing his degree, but then at that time the Air Force was they put a freeze on hiring. So he's like, "Oh, I finally got back on track to be in the Air Force, but now they won't take me." So he's like, "I don't know what to do." And then he heard on the nightly news about this new video game company called BioWare that was hiring, and he's like, "I'll go check that out." And that set him on the path to being one of the greatest freaking video game directors ever, right?
Wow.
So he's a fascinating guy. Also, I don't want to put I talk about, say, in my research on Final Fantasy games, like how important Sakaguchi was to what I felt was the spirit of those older titles and how they've changed since he's left. BioWare's, their reputation has taken a sharp nosedive in recent years.
Yeah, I have some stuff to say about that, but yeah. Yes,
particularly with Mass Effect Andromeda and then Anthem, which came after that.
Which I think Hudson directed Anthem, is that
Well,
right?
he started.
Okay, and Drew Karpyshyn wrote for Anthem as well.
Well, a little bit, but they were kind of, because they left the company and came back and then left again.
They left, yes.
Between the years 2013 and 2018,
something like
they
that,
came in and out twice. So there was, and the original guys who founded the company, they've left now into what they call their third careers. They're all off doing other things now.
Okay.
So
they cashed out.
Exactly. But the way that he has been described by, anonymous, team members at BioWare over the years, who they kind of have described how the company changed after Hudson left, right? It says, BioWare veterans like to describe Casey Hudson's Mass Effect team as the Enterprise from Star Trek. They all did what the captain said, and they were all laser focused on a single determination. By comparison, they called the Dragon Age team a pirate ship meandering from port to port until it reached its final destination. Now, the Enterprise no longer had its Jean-Luc Picard when he left, right? So that's the way he was kind of viewed or seen, as like a Captain Jean-Luc Picard in BioWare. And so when he left, he felt like he was leaving it in a really good place, because Anthem was starting to go into production, and but it started really falling apart after he left. And there's been a lot of complaints from the company about being the crunch and the overwork, and the games have not been good, and there's been a lot of problems. And so that's what Casey Hudson sort of represented in his time at BioWare. And he's no longer there anymore. And he's what made Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect and things so amazing. Right?
So good. So there's this this weird thing that happens when Squaresoft made Final Fantasy VII, and the investors and the executives, and they're all like, our next
cycle.
game, and I see this a lot with the company I work at too. It's like, you break a goal, you sell a ton of a product, and it's like, sweet, what are we going to do next year?
Now we got to go.
And you have to further it. You have to say, we're going to do even better next year. And in some ways, it's like, okay, that's just an optimistic goal that the CEO or that the money people are like, we want this to keep going. Let's capture that momentum and keep going, right?
Keep it going.
And then you get Square Enix, which is just trying to make Final Fantasy VII again, over and over and over. They're just trying to recreate that success. And it's like, how often would a company that makes really good games have one breakout, killer, awesome game, and then is okay with coming back down and just doing what they were doing, right? Yeah. That never happens. That can't happen. Because as soon as it jumps up like this, if you don't meet it with your goals, the investors are going to say, well, I'm out now. Yeah. Right, because this is a good time to sell. If you're not gonna promise me that you can keep going beyond this, then
why invest?
Why would I keep my money in this company?
Money
exactly,
as an investor.
And so the investors pull their money, and then you can't even make these low games anymore because who's going to invest in your company? It's like they clearly have no ambition, right? Yeah. So this inevitably happens. It's like the success of a huge smashing hit like Final Fantasy had been successful, like Knights of the Old Republic. But then you do a thing that's original and new and different, and Final Fantasy VII or Mass Effect, and everything goes up, and it's just like, wow. And it kills the company. It destroys the company. Yeah. That level of success is a company destroyer.
I have literally seen that happen
so many times.
With every single intellectual property I have ever liked in my entire life, outside of maybe Zelda and Mario.
That is yes, you're right. And Nintendo is crazy because they don't let these people go. Like if I look based on what you just told me, and I've looked into it as well, but you let Casey Hudson, right?
Yeah.
What company would be like, oh, you want to leave the company? Okay. After what he did, after the lengths that he went through, after the success he brought you, to be like, to not do everything in your power to keep him in your company.
And a lot of
pay him 7 figures a year. I don't freaking care.
A lot of
you
times,
need him. Yeah. And I think at some point, basically Nintendo's the only one that's like, we're going to keep you no matter what. Every other company is like, bye, and we'll do it again without you. And then they can't do it.
Well, a lot of times it's the culture, the corporate culture that comes in light of the success you're talking about.
Yeah.
Once something breaks out, it's like, okay, as a company, we can go public and make all this money and just grab these investors and really expand and grow as a company. But then it develops a corporate culture where the people at the top have no clue whatsoever what makes good entertainment and good art.
They know what makes
They
good money.
start making the decisions.
Yes.
And the artists say, I hate this culture, I'm out. I can't make good art like this.
Yeah.
That's the cycle. It's like, it's a startup, it's like made by a bunch of passionate people, this company, and then they have a lightning in the bottle type success. Bam, here we are, we arrived on the scenes. And then all the money people come in and they take it over. They literally pay, they buy it, and they take it over. And they think because they bought it, they can choose, they can make all the decisions.
Yep.
And they just have no idea how to make good art. And so then all the artists become disenfranchised with the new corporate culture, and they peace out, and then the thing just becomes garbage that's milked for years and years and years. That is literally the cycle of every intellectual property I can think of outside of some of those Nintendo properties. So some of the other developers here, some of their background, Preston Watamaniak was a garbage man before he joined BioWare.
Nice, that's good.
So he had a degree in political science, but he was just a garbage man until he was 30 years old. And then he was like, am I going to be a garbage man forever? Like, what am I doing? And so he's like having his friends keep an eye out for job openings. And then he was told about this company that makes this D&D game called Baldur's Gate. He was a big D&D player. So he was like, oh man, what do I got to do? Like, I love D&D. How do I become a part of that company, right? So, basically, the hiring process there was, hey, what kind of games are you into? And he would just spill about his love of D&D, and it's like, you're hired.
You're hired. That's so funny, man.
So that's how he ended up joining. Drew Karpyshyn, the writer, right? He was a furniture truck driver.
No way.
So he would deliver furniture.
How did these people? This is the most unlikely band of
it's so cool though.
Rogue, people.
It's so cool though because
really
I
cool.
think there are a lot of people out there who are in that position at some point in their life, like, man, I studied this, but like I can't get a job in that. I wasted my degree.
Poli-sci or philosophy or English.
It's like, so what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
It's like, and I love how these startup companies that, maybe they can't go out and get the most competitive,
Yes.
team members.
The people who have a master's degree in the thing. It's like, no, we gotta fly under the radar.
But like, there are still so many creative people out there who you just would never know. People driving furniture trucks and garbage trucks, and trying to get into the Air Force and not being able to get in there, right? Failing their way out of school. Like, these people have Mass Effect in their brains.
Yeah, somewhere.
And it's just like, if someone can just grab that talent together, the right people, like, you don't have to be some master's degree freaking programmer,
right?
Or something like that. You just got to find the right group and get together, and BioWare was able to pull that off, and I just freaking love that about sort of the humble roots of BioWare's story.
That is very cool. That is very cool.
Drew Karpyshyn ended up writing several novels that were tie-ins to the games.
I've never read those.
So I read the first. It's a prequel story to Mass Effect called Mass Effect Revelation, and that's basically the story of, he's Captain Anderson in Mass Effect 1, but at the time he was Commander Anderson, so it's several years before, and it's sort of his story about how he came in contact with Saren, who is a Turian Spectre that we get to know. He's the villain of Mass Effect 1. So it's a story about how he met him for the first time. It's pretty good. It's pretty well written. But he also wrote a tie-in for Baldur's Gate 2, Throne of Baal. And I thought this was really interesting. His thoughts on like why that particular novel was not received as well as some of the others he wrote as tie-ins to Star Wars and Mass Effect and some of the other things. So his first significant contribution to BioWare was Throne of Baal, which is the expansion on Baldur's Gate 2. He worked as a writer on Neverwinter Nights and Jade Empire, became the lead writer for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect. Baldur's Gate 2, Throne of Baal, right? The tie-in story. Basically, it's based on the story of the video game. So it's just like a novel. You know, they do that for a movie sometimes. Like,
yes.
Like
they just rewrite the story. It was one of my favorite books as a
novel.
kid. There was a little 20-page Jurassic Park, but Jurassic Park was funny. That is actually a book. But I mean, it was based on the movie.
But the movie novelization,
In the middle, it had some screenshots because I wasn't allowed. You mentioned you were allowed to watch Jurassic Park. I was not allowed to watch Jurassic Park. I had this little book that was based on the movie that I could read the book and look at the pictures. But they used to do that. I guess they still do.
I think my brother had the novelization for Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah, the Star Wars, they do all those,
So they had just basically the movie in a novel form.
In a book form.
They just hire a guy to write a novel for it.
Yeah, they use the script.
That's basically what he did for Baldur's Gate 2, Throne of Baal. He wrote this on his website.
Yeah,
right?
Those aren't as interesting, especially if you can just play the game.
Yeah, because he wrote on his website, I believe the problem with the whole Baldur's Gate trilogy that he wrote, the novels, was that the novels were based directly on the story of the BioWare computer games, which I also worked on. Basing novels directly on BioWare games is difficult. The games allow players to create their own main character, but in the book, we have to select a character for you. Players could be male, female, elf, dwarf, wizards, thieves, but in the book, they're locked into a male human fighter.
That is true. That makes it difficult.
Obviously, this makes it hard for them to identify with the main character. In the game, up to a dozen different side characters could join with the player and share their adventures. In the book, we had to select 3 or 4 side characters at most. And inevitably, we left out characters players liked. One more problem, the game was 30 hours long and had over 500,000 words of dialogue.
500? Wait, what? Even
Baldur's
more than
Gate
Mass Effect?
2.
That's insane.
Condensing all that into an 80,000 word novel is bound to leave players feeling let down. As if all that wasn't bad enough, the book had 4 different editors as Wizards of the Coast was going through a shakeup at the time, and I'm sad to say that this is reflected in the quality of the novel. As a writer, you're too close to your own work to effectively edit it. You need a good editor to push your work to the final level of quality, and that didn't happen with Throne of Baal. I still don't think it's a bad book. It does give a deeper look at all the various villains players will encounter in the world of Throne of Baal. But the novel never became what I had hoped it would. And this is why on Mass Effect, he didn't ever write novelizations of the direct game stories. So Revelation is a prequel story. And the others are kind of like in between the games.
Yeah, smart.
Right? So that's why I think that they work much better. And I definitely recommend reading Mass Effect Revelation if you want to learn more about Anderson, who is sort of a side character in Mass Effect 1. He's like a mentor to Shepard, but his past is really like fleshed out. They do a really good job too of building up to like Mass Effect, like knowing where to start in such like an enormous sort of like expansive universe like this. Like what point do we start our story at?
Right.
And how much of all this stuff that happens before are we then going to have to try to explain to catch people up?
Yeah.
It's tough. And if you read Revelation, it does a good job of showing how humanity became a part of this galactic civilization, how they got involved in the first contact war with the Turians, like all these things that lead up to Mass Effect 1's first shot of Shepard looking out the window as they like go to the mass relay and they go to this mission on Eden Prime. It's a lot of stuff to catch you up on. I think reading the novel is a good way of doing that.
Cool.
So I recommend it to anyone who wants to read it. It's really, it's pretty good. Okay, last thing I kind of want to touch on here before we jump into the prologue of the game itself is that the voice talent for this game is excellent.
It's very good.
And it was really important. And this was another one of the big draws to the game that made it feel cinematic to me when I first played it, right? Was the performances of the actors. And this was something that was very important to Casey Hudson. It was like, we have to make the digital actors, the virtual actors, convincing. They've got to be convincing. We get to see emotion in their face. We need great voice talent. Otherwise, this story won't work.
Right.
And they really pulled it off. There's some big names. So I'm not going to do this just because we're a little bit strapped for time. But again, I recommend that the hours leading up to Mass Effect, written by Jeff Keighley, where it talks about Caroline Livingstone, who was like a really struggling actress in Canada, who was just barely making it by, trying to take care of her son and things like that, doing plays here and there, little small-time shows.
Yeah.
She ended up kind of finding her way into an audition, for BioWare, and she became their casting director.
Oh, nice.
And the team she put together for Mass Effect was really impressive. So they have like Keith David, who does the voice of Anderson. He's had a prolific career.
Is he the Allstate guy?
No, but he sounds like it.
It sounds
but
just like
he
him.
does sound a lot like the Allstate guy, right? But
He's got a good radio voice.
guy. But Keith David has done a ton of, he's lended his voice to a ton of things.
Cool.
You got Seth Green, who plays Joker, the pilot, right?
He's been in a ton of stuff.
Jennifer Hale does the voice of female Shepard. Okay. And she is a extremely famous voice actress, done voices for just tons and tons of movies and cartoons and games and all kinds of stuff. Her career after Mass Effect has just been amazing. She's really great. You have Ali Hillis, who plays Liara Sony in Mass Effect, but she's also the voice of Lightning in Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So, our viewers will recognize her voice from that. Yeah. You also have Marina Sirtis, who plays Matriarch Benezia in Mass Effect, but she was Counselor Troy on Star Trek The Next Generation, one of the main characters there. So they really went out of their way to hire some like really great voice talent for Mass Effect. And it's such an integral part of selling the drama, the dramatic gravitas, the stakes of the story, the interpersonal relationships, because there are romanceable characters in the game, right?
Oh yeah, that's really
that can
difficult
be
in a
very
game,
awkward,
especially if the acting is bad.
If the acting is bad, and it's really great. I mean, it's so nice because we play so many JRPGs for the channel. Yeah, and we've talked about the reasons why acting in Japanese role-playing games or just anime and things like that are so maybe like overstated or over the top or exaggerated. It's kind of part of the way that Japanese theater developed, which is very different from how Western Western theater developed. Right?
Way different.
So there's reasons why, and it's not like it's just a different flavor. It's a different style. Thing. There's nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. But it's really nice, I felt, as I was sitting down to play this after being just game after game doing JRPG, right? And like people pushing me to play, say, like the new Tales of game. Tales of Arise, I think.
Have you done that?
I have not, but I've been looking into that and watching
Nice.
cutscenes, and there's
cool.
just a flavor to anime and Japanese RPGs in terms
Yeah.
of the vocal performances.
Oh yes.
To where when I stepped in,
it's less subtle.
Yeah, when I was playing this, I just felt like it was a palate cleanser in a way.
Yeah, that's good.
It just felt like, oh my gosh, it feels so grounded and convincing and just like real to me.
Yeah.
It's there's subtlety in the performances. And I just love that.
Nice.
And so
Nice.
I think that they did an amazing job with that. And so I would say that the morality system, the sort of like getting lost, the exploration aspect, the galaxy map and the music and the vocal performances, the voice cast, these things are what really make Mass Effect special, particularly for the time. It's like there are games that have come out.
2007. I mean,
I know
that's a long time ago.
Some of the techniques that they use, like you'll see a lot of repeating animations because there's almost like not procedural generation. That's not quite the right term, but there's a technique behind how they animate just the normal conversations, where you'll see a lot of repeats of certain
yes.
animations and things like that. That
I don't mind those as much.
you see it more now that we've
than
had
you
like
would have.
Yeah. The Witcher 3,
That's
for
true.
instance, has just like taken these techniques to a whole new level.
Yeah.
In terms of making convincing animations over so many spoken lines. I mean, hundreds of thousands of spoken lines. How can you make it look convincing and animated? Obviously, Mass Effect was one of the first games to really pioneer some of these techniques.
Yeah.
But to me, it still really works. And you know, the way that the characters move, they blink their eyes, their facial animations, it's all very convincing and paired with the great voice talent. It still holds up, in my opinion. I was concerned that, because I haven't played Mass Effect in a while, I was concerned that I was going to sit down, and I was like, this game feels stiff, it feels dated.
No.
And it does,
Well,
to some
the
degree.
visuals do, but I think in all the other regards, it still holds up.
It's still great. I got to the end of this prologue, which we're transitioning into now. Let's segue over to that. And I was a little bit nervous that I was like, maybe this isn't going to be good as I remember. Are we really going to do a podcast on this? I'm going to like criticize it so much, which I'm not afraid to do if it happens.
Of course.
But I just felt like, oh man, I'm so stoked to play this game once we got to the end of it. And I'm doing 4 playthroughs. So I'm doing a Paragon and Renegade path for the male shepherd. I'm doing probably going to be a Paragon path for the default female shepherd. So those are all default phases. But then I'm doing a stream for patrons where I kind of let them customize the character and make the choices, and that ended up being another female custom character. So I'm doing 4 different playthroughs, and I'm just exploring it and like trying choices I haven't tried before, classes I haven't played before, and I'm just after the prologue, I'm hooked. I feel as excited and I feel it's as good as I remembered it, and it really still holds up for me.
That's good. I've been very pleased in that regard as well.
Yeah. So one thing I think I want to do moving forward, this was a suggestion from one of our patrons. One thing that he really liked about, say, some of the retrospectives and reviews was the sections where I would do a summary of the story, right? I've been doing that a little bit less in recent times to avoid spoilers and things of that nature. But rather than us sort of like meandering through, summarizing it, and then like getting on tangents and things, he was like, what if you did just like a written summary in the style of those old retrospectives, and then you can jump in and like analyze it piece by piece.
If you want to write a summary every week.
I did.
Every week.
I'm going to try to do that and see if people like it.
No, people will like it. People will like it. That's your problem. People are going to love it, and you're going to get overwhelmed playing the game 4 times and having to write.
If they like it, I'll keep doing it. If they don't, if they liked the way we handled, say, Xenogears, we'll do it that way. But it's just, I'm always trying to look for ways to improve the show and try different stuff out.
Yes, you are.
So, but before I get into that summary, I think it's important to do, because I was trying to, in my attempt to write it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much like stuff that you need to know for, if I'm going to make a mention of the Protheans. You have to know who the Protheans are.
Yes. There are inevitably tangents. No matter how we do it, there will inevitably be tangents.
I want to do just a little bit of a build-up of the history leading up to how we got to the point where the game starts. So essentially, Earth, humanity has a colony on Mars. They establish a colony on Mars, and in doing so, they discover this these ruins, this hidden facility on the planet that was from an ancient alien race who they named the Protheans, who had been essentially watching the evolution of humanity. They were kind of like keeping an eye on us in our very primordial ape-like state, right? Like kind of like tracking our evolution or whatever, right? The evidence suggests that 50,000 years ago, the Protheans mysteriously disappeared. And they left behind all of this technology and these relics that essentially humanity finds it on Mars, and that leads them to right on like near the very outskirts of the solar system. There's a mass relay, which is this kind of like giant
it looks
engine.
like the Halo sword.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You go through it and like. Phew.
And the way that it works is, I don't know how much into the weeds I want to get into this yet, because we can look through like the data logs and things like that later if we want to like get into the lore of it. Okay. But a lot of the technology that the Protheans, it was based on using dark energy. There's a big like dark energy aspect to how it all works. Okay. So it's like it sort of phases. It's essentially, it's not like you're going really fast. It like phases you using dark energy and just like instantly teleports you to another mass relay across the galaxy, right? So they discover this technology that allows them to start jumping instantaneously, like way across the galaxy. So faster than light travel, right?
Yes.
So as they're experimenting with that and expanding to all these different planets and starting these colonies all over the place, they run into their first alien encounter with the Turian hierarchy, is what they're called, their government. And it's a very, very bad first meeting. It leads to them sort of like destroying the scouts that came through, and then humanity arrives with like a ton of warships, and they just kill all of those like sentry ships, and there's a big war that is about to break out called the First Contact War.
Yes.
Between the humans and the Turians. And this is when the other Citadel Council races, the Asari and the Solarians, they step in and they mediate so that war does not break out between the Turians and the humans. And they accept humanity into the galactic civilization, sort of slowly over time. And basically, humanity is extremely aggressive, extremely aggressive in their expansion. And they start having a level of influence in the economy of this citadel space, like in the economy of the galactic civilization, that is just like starting to spread at a pace that makes everyone else very nervous. It's like, who are these humans? What are their ultimate goals? They're a very aggressive race. They're a very competitive race. Anyways, it's at a point where there are three at the current time. There are three races who are represented in like the highest form of government, the Citadel Council. You have the Turians, the Asari, and the Solarians. Humans want to be represented on that council. They want an ambassador to be on that council.
Yes.
They also want a soldier to be in these. It's like an elite special agent, kind of like corps called the Spectres. And they.
I like that you made the parallel to James Bond before, because
that's exactly
Spectre,
what they are.
Yes,
that's what Casey Hudson wanted the Spectres to be.
But the word Spectre is very much a James Bond
because of the
thing.
movie Spectre, right? So these are agents who basically their entire goal is to protect the interests of this galactic civilization, to keep the peace. But they can do essentially anything they want to those ends.
I think they just have to justify it. Afterwards.
To the council. And they basically only report to the council, and they can use whatever methods they need in order to protect those interests, right? Humanity wants a human specter, and they want a human ambassador on the council. That's where we're at currently, as we open up Mass Effect, right? So, here is the summary of what we played this week. The story begins as our lead protagonist, Commander Shepard, walks onto the bridge of the SSV Normandy, a newly commissioned, state-of-the-art deep scout stealth frigate and the most advanced infiltration starship in the galaxy. It's the product of a joint venture between the Human Systems Alliance and the Turian hierarchy, and its current mission is a shakedown run on a human colony world called Eden Prime to test its stealth systems. However, many of the Normandy's crew are skeptical of this because of how seriously the captain seems to be taking the mission, in addition to the fact that a Turian Spectre named Nihilus, an elite special agent of the Citadel Council, has come aboard to observe the mission. When Commander Shepard is summoned by the captain for briefing, he reveals their true purpose for being there. A Prothean beacon has been unearthed, which could potentially provide a vast well of scientific knowledge that would result in massive technological leaps for the Alliance and other Citadel races. In order to increase their standing with the Citadel Council, the Alliance has agreed to hand over the beacon, hoping that a human ambassador will be considered for a position on the Council, as well as a human soldier for the Spectres. Nihilus, the Turian Spectre, has been assigned to observe Shepard in action, having submitted the commander's name as a candidate. Just as the briefing comes to an end, Joker alerts the captain that a distress signal has been transmitted from Eden Prime. It's a video recording that shows the colony under attack from an unknown mothership. Shepard and his team rush in to repel the attack, fighting their way toward the spaceport where the beacon is being held. Along the way, one member of the team, Corporal Jenkins, is killed, and Ashley Williams, who was separated from her squad, joins with Shepard. It's then revealed that Saren, another Turian Spectre, was the one responsible for the attack and is leading an army of Geth, a synthetic life form created hundreds of years ago who disappeared beyond the Citadel space. Saren betrays and murders Nihilus, and Shepard arrives only just in time to secure the beacon before it can be taken away by the Geth. Shepard approaches the beacon to save one of his squad mates, who appears to be entranced and drawn in by it, only to witness a terrible vision of death and destruction, a warning of what is to come. Shepard then wakes up in the Normandy's sickbay, where he's debriefed by Captain Anderson and made aware of how bad this could look to the Citadel Council. Shepard is told that he, or she, depending on your choice, will have to make a full report, and that Anderson will give his full support. Normandy then sets a course for the Citadel, where Shepard's future will be decided. So that is the prologue, the introductory sequence of Mass Effect's story. I want to pass it to you because I've been talking a lot. How did you feel about this as like a hook for the story?
I think it was quite good. So at the very, very beginning, it's full of the awe-inspiring wonder as the ship goes through, and you don't really know how any of this stuff works, and you're just seeing these big, spaceships and stuff. But once the gameplay actually starts and you get to Eden Prime, essentially, it's pretty hectic and it's pretty cool. Yeah. I know on the ship it was it was fun to go around and talk to everybody and get everybody's take on. Everyone's nervous about what's going on here. Everybody knows that something weird is happening here, but they don't know exactly why. And I thought it was really well done because it's it's a little more subtle. It's not so overt. You're talking to everyone's talking about it, but you don't have to talk to anyone really, except for Anderson at one point, or you go into the back part and you talk to Nihilus for a little bit. But you just kind of hear people talking as you're coming and going, and it feels very involved. It feels very cool. And it's less direct, although it can be as direct as you want it to be.
Sure.
And that's the cool part about this game just in general. But then the real hook being Eden Prime and what happens there.
Yeah.
I did feel a little bit, because I don't love the gameplay at all. I really,
are you playing the old version or the new legendary?
Older. Okay. No, not new at all.
So the new version is a lot smoother.
but I know, but even still, well, okay, I guess I'd have to play it then. I'd have to see how it goes. See how smooth
maybe I can get you my login on Steam. And you can just download it and try it out, just to see the difference in how it feels to play. Because I'd be interested to see if you like the new one better in that regard. But.
That sounds good. But
because I think depending on which version you're playing, the PC version you got to use like mouse and keyboard. You can like do button assignments to it, but it's like kind of clumsy. It doesn't allow you to just plug in a controller like most games on Steam. It just there's a controller option. You have to like bind them manually using third-party software.
Well, that could be the problem. So it's just really touchy, and then you have to shoot things a lot of times before they die.
Yeah.
just a lot. And that's one of the things I didn't like about Halo that I did like about Call of Duty. It's like you don't shoot people as much before they die. With Mass Effect, you're going there, and I guess everyone has like a shield or something.
They have kinetic shields.
Just shoot through the shield, and then you can get, and then you get to.
They actually explain that
still,
in the novel, the Revelation novel. They explain all the technology behind the kinetic shields and the little pellets that they use in their guns, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah?
Read it; it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But so it's a little clunky, but it's kind of cool how it kind of guides you towards places to hide behind, and the cover aspect is pretty good, and you can aim before you turn. Go out.
Yep.
Now, when I first played this game, I didn't do that because I didn't know. I just didn't get how the game worked at all, and I would just kind of going around, and I would basically just strafe left and left and right, going back and forth, and I wouldn't use the thing. If I had to go left a little, I'd move my whole character over left. Anyways, it was just very clunky. So it's not so bad there, but it's just not the type of gameplay that I enjoy playing.
Yeah.
But the characters are wonderful. Like even the little side characters that you meet along the way, like they're really, really good. Like the guy who fell asleep behind the crates and stuff. And it's like well written, interesting, totally believable, completely realistic type of situation.
Yeah.
And I really liked Cthulhu, I call it Cthulhu.
The big mothership.
The big thing with tentacles.
I love how they freeze
Cthulhu.
on that when Anderson first gets the call from Joker.
Yes, and it stops.
And he's like,
right
go back
there.
and freeze at whatever point, and they freeze on it, and they take a real long beat for them all looking at it and just being like, what is this? Is that?
And it makes the sound too. This this siren kind of sound.
Really mysterious.
So mysterious. And so the intrigue, I thought it was a very good hook.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering what this thing is, the ancient obelisk that they find and just with Nihilus. One thing I typically like, Nihilus dies because of Saren.
Saren kills him,
but
shoots him in the back.
I wonder how this game would go if you didn't see that all happen.
Oh, if they didn't show that scene.
Yeah, if it wasn't so explicit, Saren's the bad guy,
Yeah.
If it was like a little more questionable.
It's pretty interesting because
what happened.
Chrissy was watching me as I was playing it for patrons, and she was expecting Nihilus was going to be double crossing.
Because he seems pretty suspicious, right? Yes.
It's like, oh, I'm going ahead. I don't need to go with you.
Yes,
kind of thing, right?
I got other stuff.
That's what she was expecting, and then like the assistant guy who's like crazy, right? Like he's like, oh, the Turian prophet.
Yes, that guy. Yes,
and blah blah blah, right? And she was like, oh, Nihilus. Something's up with Nihilus, but then he just dies like immediately right after.
I know. It's like, oh crap, dang it. What was up with Nihilus? You'll never know. We'll never know. But the character stuff was phenomenal, and then the world building, just the immersion was so well done. This serves as a very good hook because the game does slow down a bit as you get to the Citadel before you then go to the you can go wherever you want portion of the game. Right. Which I didn't realize it takes that long before you can actually go somewhere that you want to go.
Yeah.
it's going to be a while.
The Citadel is a pretty long sequence.
Yeah, there's a lot to do there. And so it's funny because the game is, you won't really even get to until a little bit later in terms of like the exploration and stuff. Because you couldn't really go very many places on Eden Prime. It was pretty linear.
It's pretty linear.
They just guide you through a
tutorial
little place.
section.
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, the characters and the immersion, just phenomenal, off the charts, very good.
Yeah. So I really liked even like the character creator, like just like the presentation for it. Because it's like you're logging into your account.
Yes, it feels that way.
You're like your Alliance military account.
Yes.
And it's like if you just choose the default Shepherd that they build for you, just male Shepherd soldier or female Shepherd soldier with the default face. It's like, okay,
I did
login successful, whatever, and you kind of go through that. Did you create the
I'm
character?
a spacer.
Spacer, okay.
Yeah. Partly because I was like, what is
Did you customize the face?
No. I'm so bad at that. In any game that lets me do it, other than Nintendo hit on something with their Me thing, because it's so simple. It doesn't take long to make something. It's hard to make someone look bad with that. I mean, you can make them look funny, I guess, but everything looks, you know,
They
they limit what you can do.
With the 3DS, they even ended up doing a thing where you could take a picture of your own face, and it would try to create one for you.
And then you just adjust it, because it's not always great when it does that.
Right.
But I don't spend, because I'd spend so much time. I've done this in the past. Remember, like NBA 2K10 or something?
Forever.
You spend forever to like get it, and then it's like, you get it to where you think it's good, right? Then you walk away, you come back, and you're like, this looks so horrible. It looks nothing like me or anyone. So, I don't even bother with that stuff anymore.
That's my experience in particular with Mass Effect's character creator. Yeah. I don't think it's very good.
And I had heard, I've never actually experimented with Mass Effect's character creator. Yeah. And I've also never played as a female Shepard. I just kind of, I just gloss over that part, because I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
But, I have heard that the animations are not great if you customize it too much, right?
Yes, because
I've seen videos
it's sort
on
of like
YouTube.
a blanket animation.
Yes.
But if your facial features are
if your
wacky,
eyes are wider
it can
or
look
up or
really
down
weird when they talk.
Yes.
And that's always been my experience, is I'll create a character and I think it looks really cool.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking and it's like he looks janky.
His tongue and
he
teeth
looks
are
terrible.
Weird. Yes, yes.
It looks awful,
Landon,
dude.
I think Landon showed me several moments where weird stuff was going on, and I was like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah. It's freaking crazy. But on this playthrough, this was the first time, because again, Chrissy was kind of doing it over online as I'm streaming it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time we created a female Shepard that I felt looked better than the default.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Really
I've never heard of that
worked.
For Mass Effect.
And it's like all the animations look good. The voice matches with the face.
Wow.
It was like, wow, okay, like that's legit. So that's the first time it's ever happened.
That's hard, dude.
Usually I don't do that.
See,
Usually
that's
I
why
just go with the default.
I just give up. I don't even try.
Yeah. So anyways, but if you choose to customize the character, it's like, I actually think I wrote it down. It's like, welcome to the Alliance military database. Classified information requested. Establishing secure connection confirmed. Please log in to access your profile. Warning, data corruption detected. Please reconstruct profile. So it's like you're starting over again. It's just a really nice presentation touch as like a character creator. You're logging into your Alliance account, right? But I do feel like it's generally too limited in comparison to even other character creators that were out at the time, and especially that I've seen since that are just way better than that, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, you can choose up to 3 backgrounds for the character for their pre-service history. So you have Spacer, the one you chose, right?
Yeah.
Which is where you have military parents, and you grew up in the Alliance, and you're you became a soldier, right? Just to please your parents or whatever.
Just following.
Then there's colonist, which is your parents were part of a colony world and they got raided, and they ended up dying, and you're like one of the people who survived that attack. And then there's Earthborn, which is you were an orphan who grew up in gangs on the street, and you enlisted to escape that life in like the slums of some Earth metropolis, right? And then there are 3 other options for your military background or psychological profile. So you have Soul Survivor, which is you were part of a mission that goes horribly wrong. You're the only one who survived, and you had to serve all these terrible things you had to go through to like make it, right? And you have War Hero, which is against some overwhelming enemy force, you risk your life to save your fellow soldiers, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Ruthless, the third option, which is you get the job done at any cost. You're cold and brutal, and so for me, it's like if you want to go Paragon route, I think the best choices are probably Spacer, War Hero, right?
Yeah.
And then if you want to go the Renegade route, I think the Earthborn Ruthless is like a nice combination for that.
Yeah.
And the only difference that this really makes is kind of how characters will talk to you or treat you from time to time.
Yeah.
And particularly in the opening, when they're like, I think it's the ambassador and Anderson are talking, and I think Hackett is also there. They're like talking about Shepard as he or she is looking out the window at Earth, right? You're leaving Earth. And it's like, is this really, the type of person that we can trust for this? And the ambassador will say that type of thing, be very skeptical of you, if you're not a Spacer or a War Hero. If you're a Ruthless or a colonist or an Earthborn or something like that. it'll be like, I don't know, can we really trust this person? Is that really the kind of person who wants saving the galaxy?
Right, yes.
And then Anderson's like, oh, it's the only type of person who can save the galaxy.
Right.
Whereas the other way, he'll say something like, oh, you can't discredit his or her courage, like
Right.
he's more like accepting or like willing to take on Shepard in this role that they're trying to guide him or her into.
Well, what about Shepard? Earthborn, but no record of his family.
Doesn't have one. He was raised on the streets, learned to look out for himself.
He got most of his unit killed on Torfin.
He gets the job done, no matter what the cost.
Is that the kind of person we want protecting the galaxy?
That's the only kind of person who can protect the galaxy.
I'll make the call. Well, what about Shepard? She's a spacer, lived aboard starships most of her life.
Military service runs in the family. Both her parents were in the Navy.
She proved herself during the Blitz, held off enemy forces on the ground until reinforcements arrived.
She's the only reason Elysium is still standing.
We can't question her courage.
Humanity needs a hero, and Shepard's the best we've got.
I'll make the call.
I believe I did Soul Survivor for that one.
Soul Survivor.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of different combinations on my 4 playthroughs, and that was basically the only difference I've seen between them so far. That's like the biggest difference it makes.
Yeah. Just like the intro.
So you haven't done a female Shepard run before,
Never.
right? I kind of wanted to talk about some of the differences between the male and female Shepard, because Landon would swear by this too, but there's a lot of people who say that Jennifer Hale's performance is a lot
It's better.
better
I've heard that.
than Mark Meir, or Mark, I think he's Mark Meir is his name, who does Mark Meir. I was right. So it's kind of a funny picture of the guy. But anyways, Mark Meir is fine. He's just really, he's pretty stale, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a hard job to take. It's like you have to be like 3 different characters almost, and all the responses, there's like the neutral, the Paragon, and the Renegade.
Yeah.
It's like trying to balance that while, as we know, voice actors are not in rooms together a lot of times.
Yes, they're in a little
They're trying to perform, but they're not
studio.
bouncing it off of someone else in there, so they're reading all these lines by themselves. It's a very tough thing to do. Especially at this time, right? This was before they had like the really great motion capture technology where all the actors are on a stage together and they're like playing the whole scene out and doing their, their fight scenes and talking with each other and, getting a lot more convincing performances for games like Uncharted and The Last of Us and things like that. But I think he's fine. Like, he's not great, but he's not terrible. But a lot of people swear that she's way better. So this was my first time really doing a playthrough as a female Shepard. And honestly, I feel like it's pretty comparable to the male Shepard. I think that they're kind of confined by this, we got to act the scene out 3 different ways and
basically
jumping between those.
They give kind of, it's kind of like a neutral-ish performance, but I'm okay with that.
It works for a military person, a soldier.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it works because of that. It's not like the deepest, like most dynamic or a huge range of emotions or something like that.
He doesn't get excited or anything.
But this is a soldier. They're very focused individuals, right? So I think that it works for either or. I don't really prefer one or the other after having played female Shepard. But maybe that will change over the course of the game because I'll be doing the whole thing with both, right? Okay. The opening scene on the Normandy, it really sets out to establish that the mission to Eden Prime, while it's like supposed to be this shakedown mission, right? And what that means is it's you're testing like certain like systems, or it's like a test run to make sure that everything's like, working correctly. That's what shakedown means, right? You're looking for possible faults or defects or system failures or whatever. Because this is a very newly commissioned ship. It's like a state-of-the-art thing, the Normandy. And it's a stealth ship. So they're going to be testing the stealth features of the ship on this little shakedown mission. But the first guy that you come up to after that first, you have Joker and Kaiden who are on the bridge and they have a little banter back together.
Yeah, they're funny.
You're called back to go meet with Anderson. The first NPC that you meet on the way is Navigator Presley, the navigator of the ship. And he's just like super skeptical. He's like, this makes no sense. Why do we have a Turian Spectre on board?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
why is the captain taking this so seriously? Like, something's going on here. He's like really like, showing a lot of suspicion about what this mission's really about. And then you can talk to Dr. Chakwas and Colonel Jenkins, and they kind of similarly bring up something's not quite right about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what's really going on here. That's kind of like the purpose of these first couple of conversations. And in the midst of that, one thing that I really like about Mass Effect is you can kind of choose how much background and lore you get in conversations or not.
Yeah.
Because the way that the wheel is set up.
And you can end it and
End it at any time.
whenever you want.
The wheel is set up to where answers on the left side, again, the top answers are more Paragon, lower are more Renegade, and the middle are neutral. But this is all like investigation along the left side of the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's just asking questions, learning more about, because I don't know what Protheans are, I don't know what Spectres are, I don't know what the Citadel Council is, I don't know who the Turians are, I don't know any of this stuff.
I feel like they did a pretty good job skipping over the as you know dialogue.
There's a couple of instances.
They do some of that.
Yes.
But they do it in a way that's not so awful.
Yes.
It actually doesn't feel so bad.
I feel like there's like 2 or 3 places, and there's I kind of recognize the technique they use to frame
as you know.
To frame their as you know
Yes.
dialogue. And I wrote a note for this because the way that they do it, because there are some instances where they do a really good job of informing you without it sounding like I'm saying to you what you already know character.
I
right?
appreciated that. It takes a lot of skill to do that, but I think they did that several times.
And so there's a couple of parts where, like, they did a really good job, for instance, with Nihilus and Captain Anderson mentioning our technology is based on Prothean technology,
Right.
and they died out 50,000 years ago. They do a good job of more or less telling you who the Protheans are.
A research team on Eden Prime unearthed some kind of beacon during an excavation. It was Prothean.
I thought the Protheans vanished 50,000 years ago.
Their legacy still remains. The mass relays, the Citadel, our ship drives. It's all based on Prothean technology.
This is big, Shepard. The last time humanity made a discovery like this, it jumped our technology forward 200 years.
But then there's a Prothean option in the investigation part
where
Commander Shepard asks, what can you tell me about the Protheans?
Right.
And Captain Anderson's answer is, only what they told me back in school.
What do you know about the Protheans?
Just what they taught us in school. They were a technologically advanced species that ruled the galaxy 50,000 years ago.
Yes, and they frame their as you know dialogue with that every time. And I was like, that's kind of, it's not great. So like, Dr. Chakwas does this, and Ashley does this later, where it's like, what can you tell me about the Spectres? Only what I've heard.
What do you know about the Spectres?
Only what I've heard. Spectre agents work directly for the Citadel Council. They usually work alone or in small groups.
Blah, 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 and then they'll just dump their expositional dialogue on you. Captain Anderson, what can you tell me about the Protheans? Only what I learned back in school. And then he'll go and he'll like exposition dump on you. And then Ashley, you ask her about the Geth. What can you tell me about the Geth? Only what they taught me back in whatever.
What else do you know about the Geth?
Just what I remember from history class back in school. They're synthetics, non-organic life forms with limited AI programming, created by the Quarians a few centuries ago.
Like each time they framed their as you know dialogue in exactly the same way. And so it was like, that was a little clumsy, but it's only 3 examples, and all of them are optional. You do not have to do the investigation dialogues.
I feel like initially when I was asking about the Protheans or something along those lines, the answer we got was, it was pretty good because he'll tell you in like a sentence, he'll say, oh, this is, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but he'll say, oh, this is what they are. He'll answer your question in a very, well, as you know, all of our technology comes from the Protheans. But dang it, like, where did they go? I have no idea. This whole thing's crazy. Like, the council's on our butts. And, like, he turns it into, like, an opinion kind of thing. Like, he then offers his opinion, which is actually pretty good because how often nowadays do we explain to each other how the federal government of the United States works. Not very often, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we do if we're going to offer our opinion on it, right? So it's like even if we were going to talk about, the Neanderthals, like I would bring up, the Neanderthals died out like 30,000 years ago. But even though you already know that, but dude, they wore capes and like they were kind of interesting and whatever. Like I'd offer my opinion after telling you the stuff that we already know. You establish what you know and agree on. They did a better job in this game than basically any game I've ever played.
Yeah, there were some great examples of how to do dialogue well.
Yes.
And I'm going to play some of those in the cut. And there were other, like this particular way, only what they told me back in school. Yeah, it's like every time they did that, I was like, dang it. You had that before. You didn't need this.
They'd have to come up with a creative new way each time, and that's just rough.
It's tough.
It's hard.
But in any case, aside from that, the dialogue is very natural. I think it's written really well. The conversations feel very convincing.
Yeah.
It's just really fun to talk to people and learn more about the world. However, this is also my first time really doing a dedicated Renegade playthrough. I never do Renegade. And if it continues on the path it's currently on, I'm going to hate the Renegade option. Because to me, it feels like hysterically out of place each time he actually starts talking. It's like it's like a caricature of an asshole character rather than some kind of like nuanced look at a cold-blooded, ruthless soldier who's just conditioned or for his own reasons, psychological profile, he thinks this is the most effective way to get the job done.
Right.
I think there's a lot of interesting things you could do psychologically with a character like that, where you can make the audience go like, well, I can't necessarily condemn this character. I understand why they do it the way they're doing it. You can create these conflicting scenarios where it's like, this is the way it has to be done, and you can see why they feel that way, rather than just the character's always being a dick to everybody every time he talks to them.
The Council helped fund this project. They have a right to send someone to keep an eye on their investment.
That's enough. You're soldiers. Act like it.
We're making a covert pickup on Eden Prime. That's why we needed the stealth systems operational.
I don't like being kept in the dark, Captain.
Obviously, this goes beyond mere human interests, Commander. This discovery could affect every species in Council space.
We can handle this on our own.
Nihilus isn't just here for the beacon. He's also here to evaluate you.
Since when do we answer to the Spectres?
That's why I put your name forward as a candidate for the Spectres.
I don't like people making decisions about my future.
This isn't about you, Shepard. Humanity needs this.
The blast knocked you cold. The lieutenant and I carried you back here to the ship.
I don't suppose it occurred to you that Eden Prime has medical facilities?
I figured we could use a soldier like her. She's been reassigned to the Normandy.
I don't want her on my ship.
I'm the captain of this ship, Commander, and I want Williams on our crew.
And that's what Renegade feels like. It feels like a really half-baked attempt at what could have been really interesting. And so I really hate the Renegade options so far. The Paragon just feels way more natural to me. Like that's the version of the character that's the default, like canonical version of the character. And anyways, I'll see how that evolves over the course of the game, but so far I really hate it.
The difficult thing about that, and this is just the way the whole game is structured, you have to pick one or the other. You can't pick the middle route, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be Paragon or Renegade.
You can if you don't care about not getting the Paragon points.
Exactly,
or Renegade
because
points.
you need the points to do things later. Right? And I happen to already
know
that.
You don't know that going into it.
Yes, you don't know it going into it. But I would occasionally experiment with some Renegade options if I didn't know that would actually cost me down the road, and I will never be able to attain perfect Paragon peak top points, you know?
Sure.
And that's, like, I don't like that. So I likely this whole playthrough will never know what you're talking about with Renegade. I'll have to look it up somewhere.
Well, I have to look up. I have it on
playthrough.
the archive channel. Yeah. The playthrough is all uploaded there, so
you'll
be able to reference that. Okay, but aside from that, I have to say that I really like how the entire prologue feels like this chain of intriguing mysteries, just like one after the other, right? So it starts down with, wait a minute, is this really a shakedown mission?
Yeah.
What are we really doing here, right? It's kind of a nice little grab, a little hook. Okay, what's going on, right? And then, oh my gosh, who is attacking the
then
colony?
you see that video.
Because once
it adds a whole new mystery.
Once Nihilus and Anderson tell you the real reason you're there, we're going to go retrieve
Mystery
this
solved.
Prothean beacon.
Yes.
They introduce a new mystery,
Which
is
deeper.
Someone is attacking the colony. Who is it? And
they don't
Anderson mentions the terminus systems and these sort of like lawless regions of space outside of Citadel space, where like gangs and other like criminal organizations, sort of like, where they operate. Like they would be willing to come in and start a war to get a Prothean beacon, because that's like a huge leap in technology, potentially, right? So we've got to secure this thing. We cannot let that fall into the wrong hands. So, oh no, it's being attacked. But wait a minute, that ship, that giant mothership, that doesn't look like a terminus system.
Right.
Nobody there, none of the experts, Captain Anderson or Nihilus, are able to like just identify, oh, what's that?
Yeah, that's
They're
kind
all
of weird.
really unsettled by it because they have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's happening here, right? So you get down there, you realize it's the Geth. And then you start to learn about the Geth. Oh, the Geth are this synthetic life form that were created by the Quarians 200 years ago. And this is why AI is illegal. Developing AI is illegal in the galactic civilization, because it's like the Geth are not like a true AI, but they're like almost like a hive mind race.
Okay.
When they get together in a group, they become smarter than just an individual, right?
Nice.
So they're not like a true AI. They're
That's
like
cool.
They're like a virtual intelligence, but they become more intelligent the more there are together in an area. And I think that's supposed to carry over into gameplay too. Like the Geth will be smarter when they fight you. When there's more Geth, you're fighting at once. But I don't remember that. Don't quote me on that. But I seem to remember that being the case.
Okay.
But anyways, you learn that the Geth have come out after 200 years of living way outside of Citadel space and just not bothering us. All of a sudden the Geth have showed up and they're trying to retrieve this Prothean beacon.
Yeah.
Holy crap, why has that happened? Who could have who could have predicted that? Then Nihilus gets freaking murdered by Saren, who is a Turian Spectre himself, and it's like he's the one leading this Geth army. What is he up to? What's his deal? Anderson tells you later he hates humanity. Why is that? You learn more about that in the book.
He's a Spectre, which is crazy, even crazier, because you had an idea of what the Spectre were.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point, and then later on you can talk to people. What happens if a Spectre goes rogue?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
We just saw it happen.
Yeah.
Now what? These are outside of the law operating people. Like, what do you do? And it's like, well, you got to use the other Spectres to go kill them, basically.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
And then you come across that there's these two scientists who sort of like bunkered down, right? You have to do data, or you have to do encryption to like get into where they're locked in. And there's this guy who's acting really crazy. He's talking about all this prophecy and this is the end times, and he's being all crazy. And this is the trope for these character types. Yes. They're always telling the truth. They're always telling you exactly
the prophecies are always real.
Right?
There is really a prophecy.
But it made me wonder if maybe he had some sort of contact in some way with the Prothean beacon, and that's why he's messed up the way he is.
I didn't even think of that, because the contact didn't happen until later.
Yeah, it's like maybe that's the reason he's having all these visions and all this like.
So
crazy
the prophecies are the voice in his head.
They
that's
also
the
mentioned that he needs to take his medication, so I don't know if that's the truth.
She said she had given it to him. We just need to wait for it to take effect.
Oh, dude, if you do the ruthless renegade path here, there's an option for I'll shut him up. Because he's kind of annoying, and he literally just like walks up and knocks the guy out. Just,
I thought you were going to say we're going to kill him.
No, and it's just like,
That's
what
crazy.
are you doing? It's just, I was laughing out loud. It's like, this is so stupid. Like,
Say goodnight, Manuel.
You cannot silence the truth. My voice must be heard.
Oh my God! What did you do?
That might have been a little extreme, Commander.
You can't just go around whacking people in the head.
If you're going to allow a path to be that renegade, then the Paragon doesn't seem all that Paragon-y. It just seems normal.
It's just like the normal.
It's just a nice-ish guy. So it's like
the regular human being.
You've got a general, regular, nice-ish type person, and then you've got a horrible, horrible person. But you don't have like a super crazy above all, like angelic, perfectly nice.
Like,
the options don't seem balanced.
It's silly
in the center, and I wouldn't want them to be. It's just funny.
Yeah, it would be nice if they had a neutral path that led to neutral options. It's like a third. So you have like the Paragon and the Renegade and a middle thing. It's like I can use my mediation to like, get things done.
But that ruins the BioWare's like
morality thing.
Theories, yeah.
Anyways, who is Saren? What is this Prothean beacon? What is it? What is it that Shepard is getting like, a premonition about? Like all these like chain of mysteries that to me were really great hooks. It really got me engaged, and it was like, okay, man, like what's going to happen next? What's going on here? I don't want to say too much because this could potentially be a spoiler, but I do want to say that pay attention, or just keep in the back in your mind as you play if this is your first time playing the game. How well, I'll just put it this way. I think one of the things that really sold me on Mass Effect and said, I'm going to follow this through to the end, was that everything that we're learning, like every little thing, how humanity came to be part of this galactic civilization, the Protheans, like all of this stuff are just so well established for big reveals late in the game. And it's very clever, it's very subtle, and it's just like the moment it comes together is really like a gut punch. It's so cool.
Oh, cool.
So just like playing it, as having played the game already, and kind of like with Xenogears, right? Picking up on the, I was like, oh man, like that's a hint, and that's a setup, and that's a setup, and that's a setup. The setups here are great.
Nice.
And I really like where it's going to, and so I think the first mission, the prologue, is really quite excellent. The last kind of scene that they show is Saren. He apparently like secures the beacon, and he like gives it to the Geth robot dudes to like go, okay, like take it off world, and then he goes back into the mothership thing and takes off.
Yeah.
And so then when he learns that, because an Asari character kind of comes up and reports, we didn't get the beacon.
Yeah.
They took it back, and also a human like
one of them
made contact with it, and he just gets pissed.
Yeah, he freaks out, and we don't know what exactly it means. You see some things when you make contact. You see these weird, vision-y type things.
Yeah.
And you don't know what any of it means.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of wake up somewhere else, I guess. But it's like Shepard has gained some knowledge or power somehow through this thing, right? I guess
that's a pretty big trope for science fiction
seems,
and fantasy. To set up mysteries is to the character has some kind of vision of the future or some premonition of what's to come. You can't make sense of it. You got to go on a quest to like put all the pieces together.
What it all means. Yeah.
It's a good framing device. It's part of the genre,
Yeah.
But I think it's handled pretty well here. But yeah, Saren is pissed, and he's like, we got to get rid of that human. Like, we cannot let him live, or her live, depending on which you are. It's like, so Saren is not happy that we had that vision, and it's wrecking his plans somehow. So it's another sort of like little mystery that dropped there, right? What is that beacon all about? What's that vision all about? So that's where we basically played up to. Next time, we're going to be covering going to the Citadel, making our report of what happened on Eden Prime.
Doing all the little mini things to do at the Citadel.
And then the first mission after that, which I think is going to be Noveria, the planet Noveria. But again, if I end up changing that, I'll make a note here. I'll make a correction. But that's it for today's episode. Good stuff.
Sick.
Thanks for watching, everybody. And let me know what you guys thought of the bridge of our starship that we created here. We just made a trip across the galaxy, across the Milky Way galaxy.
All the way?
All the screens are synced to make the same. This is like our forward view screen, right?
Yeah.
Our right and left view screens.
We're traversing. We're going to...
This is the bridge of our starship, the SSV Arc-1.
Yes, there you
go. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of the set. I worked really hard to make it cool. We might add a few more knickknacks here and there. We'll see. But,
show them the mugs.
Oh yeah, and then the mugs. So we got these N7 mugs. This one on the back, it says, I should go.
I should go. I should go.
Which we'll talk a lot about later on. In
Galaxy's best commander.
Yep, Galaxy's best commander.
Good stuff.
Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again next week. Peace out.